Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart, Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Pura Dharanayatmayoner नष्टां स्मृतिं प्रत्यवरुध्य तुष्टात् तथा ससर्जेदममोघदृष्टिर् यथाप्ययात् प्रागव्यवसाय बुद्धिः.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, formerly prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before.
शाब्दस्य हि ब्रह्मण एष पन्था यन्नामभिर्ध्यायति धीरपार्थैः परिभ्रमंस्तत्र न विन्दतेऽर्थान् मायामये वासनयाशयानः.
The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places.
अतः कविर्नाम सुयावदर्थः स्यादप्रमत्तो व्यवसाय बुद्धिः सिद्धेन यथार्थेन यतेत तत्र परिश्रमं तत्र समीक्षमाणः.
For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing.
सत्यां शितौ किं कशिपो प्रयासै बाहौ स्वसिद्धेः उपबर्हणै किं सती अञ्जलौ किं पुरुधान्न पात्रै दिग्वल्कलादौ सति किं दुकूलैः.
When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palm of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skin of trees, what is the necessity of clothing?
चिराणि किं पथि न सन्ति दिशन्ति भिक्षां नैवाङ्घ्रिपापरभृत सरितोऽपि अशुष्यान् रुद्धा गुहाः किमजितोऽवति नोपसन्नान् कस्माद् भजन्ति कवयो धनदुर्मदान्धान्.
Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers, being dried up,
एवं स्वचित्ते स्वत एव सिद्धा आत्मा प्रियोऽर्थो भगवान् अनन्तः तं निवृतो नियतार्थो भजेता संसार हेतु परमश्च यत्र.
thus being fixed, one must render service unto the Supersoul, situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited, he is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence.
कस्तां त्व अनादृत्य परानुचिन्तां ऋते पशून् असतिं नाम कुर्यात् पश्यन् जनं पतितं वैतरण्यां स्वकर्मजान् परितापाञ्जुषान्.
Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as the consequence of accruing the result of their own work?
केचित् स्वदेहान्तरहृदयावकाशे प्रादेशमात्रं पुरुषं वसन्तं चतुर्भुजं कञ्जरथाङ्गशङ्खा गदाधरं धारणया स्मरन्ति.
Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club respectfully.
प्रसन्नवक्त्रं नलिनायते क्षणं कदम्बकिञ्जल्कपिशङ्गवाससं लसन्महारत्नहिरण्मया गदं स्फुरन्महारत्नकिरीटकुण्डलम्.
His mouth expresses his happiness, his eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kandamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings.
उन्मिन्द्रहृत्पङ्कज कर्णिकालये योगेश्वरस्थापितपादपल्लवम् श्रीलक्षणं कौस्तुभरत्नकन्धरम् अम्लानलक्ष्म्यावनमाल्ययाचितम्.
His lotus feet are placed over the walls of the lotus-like hearts of the great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustuba jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers.
विभूषितं मेखलया गुलीयकैर्महाधनेनूपुरकङ्कणादिभिः स्निग्धामलाकुञ्चितनीलकुण्टलैर्विरोचमाना ननहासपेशलम्.
He is well decorated with an ornament wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair, curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing.
अदीनलीलाहसिते क्षणोल्लसत् भ्रूभङ्गसंसूचितभूरि अनुग्रहम् ईक्षेत चिन्तामयमेनमीश्वरं यावन्मनोधारणयावतिष्ठते.
The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glances of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord, as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation.
एकैकशृङ्गानि धियानुभावयेत् पादादियावत् दसितं गदावृतः जितं जितं स्थानमपोह्य धारयेत् परं परं शुध्यति धीर्यथा यथा.
The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified.
यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन् विश्वेश्वरे त्राष्टरि भक्तियोगः तावत् स्थवीयः पुरुषस्य रूपं क्रियावसाने प्रयतः स्मरेत.
Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties.
स्थिरं सुखं चासनमास्थितो यतिर् यदा जिहासूरिममङ्गलोकं काले च देशे च मनो न सज्जयेत् प्राणान्यच्छेन्मनसा जितासुः.
O King, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed, and regulating the life ebb should control the senses by the mind.
मनः स्वबुद्ध्या मलया नियम्य क्षेत्रज्ञ एतां निनयेत्तमात्मनि आत्मानमात्मनि अवरुद्ध्य धीरो लब्धोपशान्तिर्विरमेत कृत्यात्.
Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unallowed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities.
न यत्र कालो निमिषां परप्रभु कुतो नु देवा जगतां यैशिरे न यत्र सत्त्वं न रजस्तमश्च न वै विकारो न महान् प्रधानम्.
In that transcendental state of Labdhopashanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods, who are empowered to rule over mundane creatures. And what to speak of the demigods themselves? Nor is there the mode of material goodness, nor passion, nor ignorance, nor even the false ego, nor the material casual ocean, nor the material nature.
परं पदं वैष्णवमामनन्ति तत् यन्नेति नेतीति अतत् उति शुश्रशवः विसृज्य दौरात्म्यम् अनन्यसौहृदा हृदोपगुह्यार्थपदं पदे पदे.
The transcendentalists desire to avoid anything godless, for they know that supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Thereafter, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at any moment, taking them into his heart.
Thank you. Thank you, Vani. I really enjoyed reciting with you. Your voice is really sweet and clear. Thank you, everyone. Please forgive my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna, very nice, Divya Gaurangi Mataji and Vani. Vani, I'm becoming your fan. Your recitation of chapter 12 in Gita Jayanti was amazing. And even today, Srimad Bhagavatam is amazing. Thank you so much. I was just saying to Keshav, see, Vani is chanting, you should chant as well. So you're inspiring many other children. Thank you so much. So, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the opportunity to discuss text 6 and 7 today. I would beg for forgiveness in advance and really would like you to bless me that I say something that is useful. To be honest, Srila Prabhupada is very generous, where he has given a lot of the points to discuss. So I'm hoping we can talk through it, and through your blessings we can get some some nectar from there. Sorry, I'm trying to find out how I share. Right. So if you start with 2.2.6, evam swachitte swataye siddha atma priyo artho bhagavan ananta tam nirvrito niyatartho bhajeta samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the Supersoul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency, because he is the Almighty Personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of conditioned state of existence. I suggest we'll come back to the purport when we just discuss. I will recite the next verse as well, and then we can say Mangalacharan, and then we can discuss the purport in detail. So 2.2.7, Kastam Tvanadritya Paranuchintam Rite Prashun Ashatim Nam Kuryat Pasyanjanam Patitam Veta Ranyam Swakarmajan Paritapan Jushanam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to permanent names only? Take to non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as the consequence of accruing the result of their own work. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatari Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, devotees, for again giving me the opportunity. As I say always, I'm not qualified at all to speak to the Vaishnavas who recite Srimad Bhagavatam daily and study it scrutinizingly. And I'm only at the beginning of my spiritual journey, but through your mercy, I'm getting to facilitate this session. So really, thank you so much for the opportunity. If you just take a step back and look at the context of this verse, we know that this whole canto 2 begins post Parikshit Maharaj asking two main questions. One is, how should we live? And second is, how should we leave? I think I'll say that again. How should we live in this world? And how should we leave this world? And it's very profound. Live and leave, while they sound similar, it's we are living to prepare for leaving. But it's phenomenal for Parikshit Maharaj to even pose those questions. And then we know that at the beginning of Canto 2 and including this chapter, what Sukhdev Goswami is establishing is that the best way to live and leave and prepare for leaving is through devotional service or bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is going through in a very structured, logical manner. Sorry, I think someone has got if thing on unmute. So yeah, he's going in a structured manner to take us all onto a point why devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what Srila Prabhupada has given us on a plate, is really the right way and the only way to be successful from living this life and living in the right way. And in these two verses, where we've got to is, we know that he's described the Virat Roop already, and it is said that in the more Kanishta stage, one worships the Virat Roop, and here he's establishing the devotional service to the Paramatma. He's saying one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. He's establishing that we must render service to the Paramatma who is situated in our own hearts. And Srila Prabhupada writes a really beautiful and long purport, which we can probably go over and select the key points he has made and discuss as we go along, if that's okay with you. So I'll read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the all-pervading, omnipresent Super Soul. Therefore, one who is a yogi can worship only him because he is the substance and not illusion. And so the first thing Srila Prabhupada is doing is, of course, in the previous verse, he has already said that we should live a simple life, which is the basic necessity for us to be established in worshipping the Paramatma. And, if I just remind ourselves of the previous verse, he had said, I'm sure most of you would have heard yesterday, around like how, what it means to live with minimum necessities. And he had said, why cots and beds, why pillows, when there's earth, when there's our arms, the palms of our hands being the utensils, why do we need the clothing, the skins of the trees? Do the trees take charities? So living really simply, because the food is available, the water is available for free, the mountain caves are there as shelter for us, etc., etc. And the Lord is there to protect us. So I think he had said that we have to be situated in simple living, high thinking state, which is what Srila Prabhupada always says. And here now starting to establish um, the real world where we live in. Where, most people like me are in Maya or illusion, and he's starting to describe what does it feel like to be in Maya and illusion. So I'll just continue to read. I read this. A living being's constitutional position is to render service, but in the atmosphere of Maya or illusion, or the conditional state of existence, the conditional soul seeks the service of illusion. So instead of a constitutional position, which is to render service to the Lord, we are rendering service to the illusion. The conditioned soul works in the service of this temporary body. Bodily relatives like the wife and children, and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and bodily relationships, such as house, land, wealth, society, and country. And he does not know that all such renderings of service are totally illusory. And then he goes on to describe the illusion more as to how, I mean, we obviously think of these things as very natural to us, right? Like our relatives, everything we associate with the body. And he describes, as we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like a mirage in the desert. In a desert, there is illusion of water, and foolish animals become entrapped by such illusion and run after water in the desert, although there's no water at all. But there's no water in the desert. One does not conclude that there's no water at all. The intelligent person knows very well that there's certainly water in the seas and ocean, but vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from the desert. So in this illusion, or in this world, what we are searching for is happiness. And while we get to it in temporarily, we know it's not the same happiness. Like in one place in Bhagavatam, it is described that in the spiritual world there is akhand utsav, like akhand meaning non-stop, and it's full of celebration. And like in the material world, even if we get happiness, it's temporary and it finishes, whereas it is ever increasing in the spiritual world. So just because we don't get the happiness in the material world, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. What Prabhupada is saying is it's like a desert where we may think, looking at the mirage, that there is water, and then when we go to it, we don't find it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We have to go find the body of water which exists, which is in the spiritual world. So it's sorry, where was I? But foolish people who have no substance search after reality of life in the illusion. This material body does not endure eternally. Everything in this relation with this temporary body, such as wife, children, society, also change along with the change of the body. So this was very neatly explained. I was listening to Urmila Mataji, and she was giving the example of how when we do drama, she said drama is real. So someone may say, well, we don't believe in this jagat is mithya, right? Which is what Mayavadis say, that this world is illusion. So the drama is real. But we as patra, or the players, say the drama, the players who are playing in the drama, they are doing a part in the drama. So now everyone has a role, but whatever role they've got in the drama is not their real role. So that's what is the role that we've been given temporarily based on whatever past desires and karma and accumulated um, activities and positive and negative reactions of the same. So that in that role, when the actor is looking to start to play that role, the actor starts to meditate on the role, starts to dress up in the costume of that role, starts to um, uh, think about their interaction with other players in that drama, which may be in this material world, our wives, our children, our parents, our friends, our society, and others. So the country, the work, the various actors interact with each other in that drama, in that role, and slowly as actors, we become so engrossed that we think that drama is our real life. And we forget that we were someone else who's playing that little role in the drama. And I think that's, I mean, she explains it very beautifully how somehow we get caught in that illusion. And then we are looking for um, for the real things that we would experience as we ourselves in that drama, which is all very artificial, and the interactions are artificial and made up. If we just move on, Srila Prabhupada also explains like, yeah, the samsara is repetition of birth, death, old age, disease. We'd like to find a solution for all these problems in life, but we do not know the way. Herein it is suggested that anyone who wants to make an end to the miseries of life, namely repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease, must take to this process a process of worshipping Supreme Lord and not others, as it is also ultimately suggested in Bhagavad Gita 1865. Sarvdharman parityaja namekam sharanam raja. So like, I mean now, so what is the solution? And Srila Prabhupada is coming into the solution, which is to say, well, we know there's a problem. We are in that illusionary, we are in this illusionary world. We identify ourselves with the body, but what is the way out? And he's saying, if you want to come out of the miseries of life, which is this drama of birth, death, old age, disease, which is going on, Krishna gives the answer, which is quite well explained. And then he's very beautifully saying how Krishna wants us to be with him, which is next few lines. The baby in the lap of the mother is naturally attached to the mother, and the mother is attached to the child, which is natural. And Srila Prabhupada has explained in multiple places how the love or the between the mother and the child is only next to um, the pure love of bhakti, and and the attachment is quite significant, especially when the child is small. Then the attachment is two-sided. But but when the child grows up and becomes overwhelmed by circumstances, he gradually becomes detached from the mother. Although the mother always expects some sort of service from the grown-up child and is equally affectionate towards the child, even though the child is forgetful. So as the child has grows old, child is forgotten, or is busy with the rest of the activities, and the affection towards the mother may not be the same. But Prabhupada is explaining how the mother is always longing for the child. I know my parents wait for that one phone call that I make to them. I'm sure you have the same experience with your parents or your children. And And it's the same with the Lord, where the Lord has not forgotten. We remember our parents once in a while, but the Lord is so because similarly, because we are all part and parcel of the Lord is always yeah, sorry, but Lord is always affectionate to us, which is quite important. He's always, and we are not always, right? At least I'm not always. And I think our objective is to reestablish a position where we are always affectionate towards the Lord. He always tries to get us back home, back to Godhead, and He's waiting. Where we take one step towards Him and He takes multiple steps towards us. Um, But we, the conditioned souls, do not care for him and run instead after the illusory bodily connections. We must therefore extricate ourselves from all the illusory connections of the world and seek reunion um, with the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada has explained the problem, and then he said the solution is we need to remember a relationship with the Lord, and Lord is just waiting for us to be reminded. And then he gives two clarifications. He said, well, in this verse it is said that you should worship the Paramatma within, and he didn't want the devotees who are reading this purport or the translation to get bewildered. So does that mean that we don't have to go to the temple because we can worship the Paramatma within? And Srila Prabhupada is beautifully saying, um, this does not suggest, however, that we should not go to the places of worship, namely the temples, churches, and mosques. Such holy places of worship are also occupied by the Lord because the Lord is omnipresent. And so first he's saying it's not that the Lord is just within, Lord is also omnipresent, so he's also there in the temples. And he says why it is very important to go to the temples, because for the common man, these holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. And it's really important, like how Srila Prabhupada established all these temples as centers of learning, even here in Bhaktivedanta Manor or Soho Street or Mayapur, or like the whole School of Bhakti or Mayapur Vedic Institute of Education, Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, all these different universities, different schools, different places, whether it's Krishna Club or these schools, is all about a place of learning. And one of the main reasons why a lot of people are not have forgotten the culture, especially the ones who were born in Indian background, is because our education system has completely taken out a lot of the learning from our scriptures over a period of time. And the places other than ISKCON temples, there are very few places where you can actually learn. And this is where it's quite fundamentally different how Prabhupada established ISKCON centers and our philosophy, where he has given so much information, he's given so much philosophy about why we are doing things. Like it's very easy to say one should do this, one shouldn't do this, but I think to explain the why and to teach people systematically on why this is the way we are doing things, it is amazing how Srila Prabhupada established, and clearly he sees the temples as the centers of learning. So when the temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently, the mass of people become godless and godless civilization as a result. So, he's explaining how much it is important that all our centers are actually schools in some way, where there are places of learning the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And then he also says the importance of the leaders to be Krishna consciousness, like also Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So he's saying the foolish leaders of godless civilization try to devise various plans to bring about peace and prosperity in the godless world under the patent trademark of materialism. But because such attempts are illusory only, the people elect incompetent, blind leaders, one after another, who are incapable of offering solutions. If you want to end this an anomaly of godless civilization, we must follow the principles of revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and follow the instruction of a person like Shukdev Goswami, who had no attraction for material gain. So essentially, if I just recap Srila Prabhupada's purport, I think he started by describing how we are in this so-called illusionary world where we see and associate with all things which are bodily as our real sense, which we are not. Our soul, our constitutional position is somewhere else. Then he went on to explain how it's not just while we are in illusion, Krishna is waiting, and Krishna is waiting really like a mother would wait for the child to turn to her, or our parents wait for a call, or we may wait for our children's call if they're grown up. And I think that is so important. And then he says, well, how we should develop this is through making sure that the places, that the temples are places of not just places of worship, but also centers of learning. And then finally, he says it's so important that the leaders are setting the right examples and not just creating a culture or patent trademark of materialism, as Srila Prabhupada says. Just if we conscious 20, it is 2027. So we'll quickly read the purport for the next verse as well. This is a lot smaller. I mean, the only thing I would say about the translation and the verse itself is that, isn't it, you would remember how Krishna says, or Krishna scolds literally Arjuna, like, how have these impurities come upon you? He says, Klebhyam, isn't it? And likewise, like Shukdev Goswami is literally saying, what's up? He's saying, can you not see, like, this whole world of suffering? He calls it the river of suffering as a consequence of doing what people who associate themselves with the body are doing, that is non-permanent. And can you not see that how much suffering it is getting? Come on, wake up, Jeev Jago. Gaura Chandra Bole. I think he's literally saying, like, come on. If you just read the purport very quickly, so in the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attached to demigods to the exclusion of Supreme Personality of Godhead are like animals. So, and Srila Prabhupada goes straight in. He says, well, if you are not really on this path of devotional service, better than an animal. And that's quite hard hitting when you actually look at, like, when I look at myself and what I normally do in my consciousness, like Srila Prabhupada is saying, come on, you're acting like an animal who follow the herdsmen, even though they're taken to the slaughterhouse. So it's like we're being taken to the slaughterhouse, but still we are doing the same thing, and not willing to change. The materialists, like animals, also do not know how they are being misdirected by neglecting the transcendental thought of Supreme Person. No one can remain vacant of thought. It is said that idle brain is a devil's workshop, because a person who cannot think in the right way must think of something which may bring about disaster. The materialists are always worshipping some minor demigod, although this is condemned in Bhagavad Gita. As long as a person is illusioned by material gains, he petitions the respective demigod to draw some particular benefit, which is after all illusory and non-permanent. And he is also saying, well, even, like, if you remember, I'm sure, like, we all did Bhagavad Gita before doing Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's the yoga ladder in Bhagavad Gita, where there's Ugra Karma and then Karma Kanda, which is where the worship of the demigods is to do business with them. मैं आपको सवा मन का लड्डू चढ़ाऊंगा या सवा किलो के लड्डू चढ़ाऊंगा if this becomes true, or I'll give this if I'll do X, Y, and Z if you give me this. Is the kind of relationship with, for material gains, and Srila Prabhupada is saying, like, I mean, this being like a animal in complete illusion, you're simply like that if you're trying to do that, follow a karmic life, where you're just focused on everything material, illusionary, and non-permanent. And then he says, of course, the enlightened transcendentalist is not captivated by such illusory things. Therefore, he is also always absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme in different stages of realization, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. In the previous verse, it is suggested that one should think of Supersoul, which is one step higher than impersonal thought of Brahman, as it was suggested in the games of contemplating the Virat Rupa of personality of Godhead. So I think we know that there are three forms of the Lord: the Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan. And ultimately, we need to establish our devotional service to Bhagwan. But he's slowly building up to it. If I just talk about the last verse, the last paragraph here. So he in the shloka itself, there is the river of suffering, Vaitarini, which is mentioned, which is what Prabhupada describes in his last paragraph. Intelligent person who can see properly may look into general conditions of the living entities who are wandering in the cycle of 8.4 million species of life, as well as in different classes of human being. It is said that there is an everlasting belt of water called River Vaitarani in the entrance of plutonic planet of Yamaraj, who punishes sinners in different manners. After being subjected to such sufferings, a sinner is awarded a particular species of life according to his deeds in the past. Such living entities, as they are punished by Yamaraj, are seen in different varieties of conditioned life. Some of them are in heaven, some of them are in hell, some of them are brahmanas, some of them are misers. No one is happy in this material world. All of them are either A, B, or C prisoners suffering because of their own deeds. So he's very clear that even going to hell or going to heaven is like either golden shackles versus iron shackles. But shackles are shackles, and we will be subject to the suffering from river Vaitarani, which is what Yamaraj, which is just outside the planet of Yamaraj, where we have to swim, where it is said that it is full of a different kind of obnoxious fluid, including blood, pus, urine, and various other things. And and yeah, we have to go through all the suffering, whichever world we are going in. Lord is impartial, though. Um, to all circumstances of the suffering of living entities, but to one who takes shelter at his lotus feet, Lord gives proper protection. And then Prabhupada gives us assurance that if we take shelter of him, of the Lord, he'll give us proper protection. There is a story that I think it was Nimai Chand Prabhu from ISKCON Chowpatty when he was visiting, and in one of the classes in Soho, it was a Sunday feast lecture. He told a story um, from another. I think it is the Sikhs. So he said that there were some of the saints who would go and do satsang in various places. And there was this one young lady or girl who would come and sit in front of them, and whether they were in Delhi or in a town far away, she would always be there, and in the front seat she would be sitting there, listening to the katha and or participating in the kirtan and listening to the katha. And so like they thought that maybe like she's maybe very going through tough times, which is why she's attending all their sessions. So they called her once and asked her, um, um, are you happy at your home? And she said, I'm very happy. My in-laws look after me very nicely. I have I mean she was from a well-to-do background, so she had no problems at all. Um, and then she said, well, but they asked her, but like we've been going through various cities, and you were there always sitting in the front row and listening actively and participating actively. Um, what's the motivation behind you doing that? And she says, well, once, I mean, she says I'm from a really nice background. I used to do a lot of manav seva, so I used to help people out. I used to give in charity. I used to do lots of activities. And then my family was very religious, so they would ask me always to come for satsang and kirtans, and I would always ignore it. Once they asked me to go to a place. I went there for 15-20 minutes, and then I came back. And then it so happened that I left my body, and there were the three Yamarajas who came to pick me up. And then she explains how she went through the various, um, uh, you know, um, sufferings that you have, going all the way to, as Prabhupada explains, to the Yamraja's place. And then she was standing on the other side of this Vaitarani river that Sukdev Goswami mentions in this, and she's saying it was awful, and like I just didn't want to go through, but you had to go through it um, to go on the other side, which was the Yamraja's planet, and at that time, um, for me. A lady in white appeared, and she smiled, and she closed her eyes, and then next moment I found myself on the other side, which was on the Yamraja's side of the planet. And then when Yamraj saw me, he said, oh, you've got the wrong Satnam Kaur. um, and then I was sent back. um, and then I asked Yamraj, I mean, why did I not have to go through that suffering on the river? And he said that because, I don't know if she asked Yamraj or someone else, but because you sat in that little satsang for 15-20 minutes, that's why you didn't have to go through that whole thing. And since then, I've realized that all the charity and various other activities that I used to do are of no use if I'm not doing it properly. I think she used the word kirtan as well as proper shravanam. Then that's the only way I can perfect myself. And then she came back, and she's been very active. And I think it was supposed to be another Satnam Kaur next door, where the person died or left their body. But I know we are so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us this process and have really given us the jewel, which we sometimes can forget and neglect. It's so nice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Please forgive my offenses. If there are any comments for a couple of minutes, then we can take them. Otherwise, we can close it there. .
Hare Krishna, Sripati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Vani Mataji.
Yeah, it was lovely, beautiful, wonderful class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your encouragement, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I loved the way you told this live and leave the word. I loved it because it was difficult to remember those questions. You made it so easy. How to live in this word and how to leave this word. Beautiful, wonderful, well done. Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm going to take no credit. I don't know if you've got this book. It is Bhagavad Pravaha by Gaurang Darshan Das. And actually, he summarized the cantos very succinctly. And in there, he had mentioned it. So I had just repeated what Prabhuji had said in that class, but in that book. But I would strongly recommend you to all. It's showing as opposite in mine. Bhagavad Pravaha. It's both in English and Hindi, but yeah, if you get a chance, please order it. It's very nice. It's very, very short, like in 5-6 pages, you can get a summary of the whole whole canto. And then also I'm sure that Bhagavad Subodhini is the more extensive version that he has written for each of the verses. But
yeah, beautiful. That was beautiful. I just loved it because so easy to remember. But were the two questions very easy to remember? Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu devacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
কাটছে আবার হ্যাঁ কপিটা একটু করে গেল হ্যাঁ এটা আজকে খাওয়া যাবে না খাও নুনটা দাও তাহলে ডিমটা নুনটা আগে নুনটা দিয়ে তারপরে
নিতাইকে ফোন করলাম যে মোহনের হাত দিয়ে একটু পাঠাবো ওর জন্য খাবার মাছ লেগেছি যেটা ছিল সব ফেলতে হবে না তো হ্যাঁ পাঠিয়ে দিই যা আছে সব বললাম যা দেখতে রান্না করা শরীর খারাপ করছে রাজমা রয়েছে তারপরে না না ইউনিভার্সিটি হ্যাঁ বানিয়ে বলতে চাই ডাক্তার হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা না না গরম করি আর এটা তো এতটা লাগবে না ফ্রিজ করো কতটা লাগবে হ্যাঁ ফ্রিজ করো না কারণ ছোট দিয়ে ফ্রিজ করো সবজিটাই আছে welcome.